Views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and despite the snowstorm, I'm here with my good friend Steve Sabatke. Welcome, sir.
Neither rain, nor snow, nor sleet, nor hail shall keep us from our appointed rounds.
That's right. You might not get mail, but you're definitely getting your movie reviews this week.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into anything, I just need to make a clarification because I've gotten several messages after last week's show. And I just want to make a clarification. Last week I made an announcement about the future of the show, and I constantly referred to our 1,000th episode upcoming.
Yeah, I caught that.
Yeah, it is not that. Everyone else caught that as well, except for me. What I meant to reference was our 10-year anniversary is upcoming, and that will be the date when things change. So just for those of you who...
I just thought you were just going to do like 5 shows a week.
Yeah, it would take that at least. We're not doing that. Before we get into our movies this week, and more excitedly, our worst of 2023 list, we had our first big awards show of the season this past week. A lot of people were talking about it. It's the Golden Globes. I don't know about you. I've never been a big fan of the Globes.
No.
I've never respected them.
I don't put a lot of weight on them.
Yeah, I don't put a lot of stock in them, but
No.
I do like kind of taking a look at winners and losers because I love awards shows.
Gives you a little bit of indication.
Yeah, and the one thing I do like about the Globes is that they separate dramas and comedies.
Oh, I hate
See,
that.
I kind of like that because it allows comedies that are never going to get an award to at least get a little recognition. But we saw Oppenheimer come out with a lot of trophies. Best drama, Christopher Nolan won for director. Best original score, Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. won for their acting performances, which kind of no surprise to me.
I thought Downey was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to kind of sweep through a lot of things. I was very happy. Lily Gladstone won Best
Yes.
Supporting Actress for Killers of the Flower Moon.
Glad for that.
Gave a great speech. Poor Things, one of your favorite movies of the last year, won for Best Comedy. Emma Stone won for Best Actress in a
Yeah,
Comedy.
I told you it's going to be the new Shape of Water at the Oscars.
Watch out. The Holdovers took home a couple of acting awards. Paul Giamatti and Da'Vine Joy Randolph.
Glad to see that.
That was very cool. And then a movie that I reviewed last week, Anatomy of a Fall, won for Best Screenplay, which really surprised me, and non-English speaking film. But the thing everyone's been talking about is the host of the Golden Globes, Joe Coy.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay, I guess. I really don't know much about him. But I think if this told us anything is that, this could be an Oppenheimer Oscars this year.
Yeah, I think it's really down to, in my opinion, Oppenheimer, Holdovers, and Poor
Poor
Things
Things, yeah.
are really the three, I think.
I don't know about Barbie.
Yeah. I mean, Barbie got kind of skunked.
It did.
Except for, I believe, Best Song. Billie Eilish's
Best Song.
the worst song, I think, in Barbie somehow got
Well,
it.
they won that new Golden Globe Award about
biggest box office.
biggest box office hit or something.
Which was just an excuse to get Taylor Swift to show up. I think, hey, you might win, even though you didn't have the biggest box office.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into movies that are out right now, though, and we have a couple of films on the streaming spotlight. The first one was a film on Netflix, I believe. Prime, thank you, called Foe, from director Garth Davis. Stars Saoirse Ronan and Paul Mescal as Hen and Junior, respectively. They're a couple. This is set in the year 2065. They live and work on their small farm amidst the global climate crisis that has led to dust storms and crop failures, and they're kind of going through the motions of a struggling marriage, and you get the feeling that they're kind of together because there's no one and nowhere else to go in this world. Hen has dreams of seeing the world and what's left of it, and she's an artist, but Junior has no interest in really going anywhere or letting her explore. Even still, Hen seems to not want to give up on their marriage, but rather to get Junior to join her in her dream. The inciting event of this film, though, comes one night when a car rolls up to their farm and a man named Terrence, played by Aaron Pierre, comes to their door. He says he works for Evermore, which is a government agency looking for people to lead their program to inhabit and colonize space. And he thinks Junior is perfect for it. But of course, Junior doesn't want to stray from his farm. But he's quickly informed by Terrence that he's basically been drafted and given a year to prepare to leave for space. Cut to 1 year later, Terrence returns to take Junior with him and has an offer in order to not leave Hen abandoned in this world, Evermore is going to provide her with a replacement Junior, a clone version. But in order to replicate him, Terrence must also record them revealing their innermost thoughts and resentments. And Terrence becomes this intrusive marriage counselor, kind of, an interloper, and he seems to really want to bring out the worst of everyone and the resentments and Junior's insecurities. And this film, to me, felt like 2 hours of
Nothing?
Nothing is a great way of putting it. It just never stops gazing at its shoes.
Oh.
It's never quite coherent. And despite loving most of the people in this film, I had no interest in this.
Well, I kept waiting for something to happen.
You're still waiting.
And then when it did happen, for me it wasn't a surprise, because if you were really paying attention, you would know what was going on right away.
Or if you've ever seen any movie like this, any replicant movie like Schwarzenegger's Sixth Day, any of these, you know what the twist is going to be.
I was checking my watch constantly during this.
Yeah.
This is slow. It's boring.
It's too long.
I mean, I like Paul Mescal and Saoirse Ronan.
Yeah.
I mean, Mescal's going to be in the new Gladiator film that's
Right.
coming out this year. But I just thought there was a little bit of overacting going on here.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I love Saoirse Ronan, and I felt like she wasn't given a whole lot to do with the film. Is edited terribly. Like, people are they're laughing, and then there's just horrible moments, and it's edited like a mess, and it's just it doesn't deliver. It's too long. It didn't pay off.
Well, it's a science fiction movie. Where was the science fiction? I mean, you see some floating cars and some other things, but apparently diners and chicken plants, where the two work, haven't changed at all, especially the diner.
Not in this little town. What did you end up giving Foe, sir?
I gave it 2 stars. That's probably generous. I say no to Foe.
Nice. I believe your score is generous because I think I gave it 1.5 stars.
Whoa,
there it is.
Okay.
Yeah, pass on this one. Let's move on to Netflix, where you had a movie that I wasn't able to get a time to watch. What do you have?
This one is called Good Grief. No, it's not Good Grief, Charlie Brown. It's Good Grief. And it's produced, directed, and written by, and also starring in the lead role, Daniel Levy of Schitt's Creek fame. And Levy plays Mark. He is an artist who does the illustrations for the popular books that are written by his husband, Oliver, played by Luke Evans. Oliver is so popular that he has to leave the Christmas party that he and Mark are hosting at their home in London to get to a book signing in Paris. However, shortly after leaving the party, Oliver is killed in a car accident. And a year later, Mark learned some things about Oliver that he didn't know, including that Oliver was secretly leasing a flat in Paris. So Mark decides to bring his best friends, Sophie, played by Ruth Negga, and Thomas, played by Himish Patel, with him to Paris, though he keeps the revelation about Oliver a secret so the three can have, I guess, a good time. Sophie's a free spirit who just broke up with her boyfriend. Thomas used to be in a relationship with Mark. If you are looking for a Daniel Levy Schitt's Creek-like comedy, you're not going to find it here. There are 2 comedic scenes in the movie, one involving a cameo from Caitlin Dever, who gives a very inappropriate eulogy at Oliver's funeral, the other involving a performance artist and yarn. They're both funny, but they both seemed really out of place in this drama that's about love and friendship and tragedy and dealing with grief, even after you learn some things that you didn't want to learn. The movie, as you've seen the trailer here, I mean, it looks great. You want to go hop in a plane and visit Paris, but I felt that it just really didn't tell me enough about the 3 main characters. You just don't really get to know these characters as much as you should. And some of the heavy dramatic moments in this film, and there are plenty of them, feel a little forced. There's a scene where they're having a dinner at the apartment in Paris. Things are not going well, and somebody puts a record on, and it's Neil Young's Only Love Can Break Your Heart. That was a little too on the nose for me. You know, I thought it's a decent first feature for Daniel Levy. I like him as an actor.
Yeah, I do too. I like this cast.
This is a whole different role for him, and I thought he did pretty well. But I'm looking forward to his next film that he directs, whatever that may be. And I just thought this could have been a little stronger.
I think maybe he's trying to veer away from being known so heavily, being known almost exclusively for comedy. Maybe he said, all right, I want to show another side of me.
Yeah, I mean, the movies that he's been up to this point, he's pretty much played that character that he played in the TV show.
Do Daniel again. Come on, do Daniel again. David. Yeah, we want to see do David.
I think he's trying to move away from that, and it was okay.
What did you end up giving Good Grief?
Average score, 2.5 stars.
Right down the middle.
Yeah.
There you go. Not a great week for new movies, but it's January. You kind of have to come to expect that in January. But I don't know that any of these are going to make a list that we're talking about for next year, because right now we're going to talk about our worst of 2023. And I don't know about you. I just finished ranking all my movies from 2023, and I was fairly impressed at what a solid year it was.
It was a good year, and I know we're doing the best of next week,
yes.
and I am still having a tough time because there were a ton of movies that could have gone on that list.
It's been a while since we had a really, really good year like that.
Yeah, this has been a great year.
We had to pick out our worst, though.
There's been some stinkers, too.
There definitely have been. And so we're going to talk about our 5 worst or least favorite movies from this past year. Real quick, there were a couple movies on last week's episode I felt like could have been on here. I didn't want to rehash last week's episode.
I was thinking about that when I watched it.
So I'm giving an honorable mention to Aquaman and basically every superhero movie not named Spider-Man from last year. Aquaman, Ant-Man, Shazam, even Guardians 3 a little bit to me. Those all get honorable mentions for me. But let's go ahead and start with you with your 5th worst movie of the year.
Well, number 5 for me is on Prime, and it's called Candy Cane Lane. This to me was the worst new Christmas movie this holiday season, although Genie came close.
Yeah.
The writer forgot that Eddie Murphy was in this film.
We had somebody funny in this movie.
Did you see this?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Murphy's the star, but there's nothing in it that's tailored to his sense of humor. Now, I get it. It's a PG movie, and they wanted to make it a nice PG Christmas movie for the whole family. But it's just nothing in there that you expect to see from Eddie Murphy in a movie. And the villain's an obnoxious elf. The plot's complicated. It's yet another neighborhood home decoration contest.
Yeah. Based on a true story.
Was it really?
There's a real Candy Cane Lane.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Well, that makes it even worse.
Yeah.
It's, we've seen that decoration contest before.
Yeah.
It was not funny at all. And Eddie Murphy deserves much, much better than this.
Yeah, this was a disappointing movie for sure.
Yeah.
I still would put Genie just slightly worse, though.
Yeah, it was close. That's on my honorable mention.
That's a rough
list.
one and 2.
Candy Cane Lane, it's Candy Cane Lane.
Yeah, nice. My number 5 is a movie that you and I reviewed together, I believe, back in maybe August. It's Peter Pan and Wendy from director David Lowery, starring Alexander Maloney as Peter. It's Disney's live-action remake of the classic Peter Pan story. Peter goes to reunite with the Darling children, whisks them away to Never Never Land, captured by Captain Hook, and Peter has to save the day, blah, blah, blah. Now, it's called Peter Pan and Wendy, despite the fact that Wendy is very much a tertiary character in this movie.
Yes.
And my problem is this movie was just boring and drab. Never Never Land looked like a brown, drab landscape. It lacked any sort of fun moments. Even when the Lost Boys show up, it should get fun, but I felt like this was a really lifeless retelling of the story. I mean, the giant alligator that shows up looked like something you'd see floating down the street at the sewage treatment plant. Peter had zero charisma. Jude Law's okay, but they try to make him like a redemptive character in this movie.
Yep.
And it's billed as being, Peter Pan and Wendy's barely a part of this movie. And I didn't have high hopes because I just don't like these Disney live-action remakes for the most part. And this one didn't deliver. And oddly, they decided to put it out, I believe it was the week leading up to The Little Mermaid.
So that's all you saw for
they kind of buried this movie.
Trailers on TV was about Little Mermaid.
Yeah, it was telling that they buried this movie under their own movie.
Nothing about this movie.
Yeah, and this was a streaming flop in a year of streaming flops for Disney Plus, and I hated Peter Pan and Wendy. So there you go. That's my number 5.
Tell us how you really feel.
Your number 4, sir.
Okay, this is a movie that I reviewed when you were on vacation.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, it is Retribution with Liam Neeson. And, you know, I mean, I like a Liam Neeson movie that retreads a plot that we've seen 1,000 times
He's
before,
good at those.
as much as the next guy, but this one was just a giant dud. And this is the one where Neeson plays the bank executive who gets a bomb threat while driving his kids to school.
That's right.
And he's told, you know, your car's going to explode if they stop and get out. And he's giving some demands. And it's just a rehash of other action movies. I mean, it reminded me of a really bad movie, Speed.
Yeah,
movie.
oh boy.
Yeah. I mean, and plot points we've seen before. The action hero's wife is seeking a divorce. The kids don't like him.
Yeah.
You know, you got the skeptical cop who doesn't believe what's happening to the hero, but has that heart of gold and still wants to help. It's all action movie 101.
Yeah.
The ending was horrible. I gave the movie 1 star at the time.
I watched that episode when you and Jeff filled in.
Did you see this?
I did not. On your
Okay.
lack of recommendation, I did
You
not
didn't-
run out to see this
okay.
one. This did not make the list. Yeah, Liam Neeson, I mean, not the most original, guy who seeks the most original roles.
Horrible.
My number 4 is a film from director Robert Rodriguez, who I used to love, but he has made a series of clunkers lately. Stars Ben Affleck. It's a film called Hypnotic.
Oh.
Ben Affleck stars as Detective Danny O'Rourke, struggling with the trauma of his daughter's abduction, which happened right in front of him. And it's the focus of his obsessive investigation. And it narrows down to this man named Del Rain, played by William Fichtner, a man who's able to pull off a bank heist without getting his hands dirty. Somehow, this guy is able to just whisper into people's ears, and they do his bidding, like little clones, like little drones for him. And Del also has something to do with the disappearance of Rourke's daughter, and he's kind of taunting Rourke with this fact. And the question is, what's this power that this guy has, where he's able to? And he also has like a suicide switch in these people's heads, where he whispers another word and they jump off a building or whatever. Enter a fortune teller who reveals to Ben Affleck's character that William Fichtner's character is a hypnotic, and so are you. You're able to control people's minds with the power of suggestion, and it's actually a government program that was used to weaponize people, and William Fichtner is the most powerful. He's the Babe Ruth of hypnotics.
Oh, no.
And this movie is awful. Like the first 35 minutes I thought were interesting. It was an interesting buildup, and then the final hour is just horrible. Red herring after red herring. Plot twists that change all the facts that we know. Everything is unreliable. A massive letdown where it got laughably bad, where they tried taking this movie and left a real bitter taste in my mouth. Ben Affleck felt like he was going through the motions. Robert Rodriguez feels like he's been going through the motions for about a decade now. And this was a film that was in theaters, but I don't know one other person that actually saw it.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
I remember
Okay.
having to go see this. I believe
haven't
Dan
seen
Presser
it.
was my co-host that week, and I was alone in the theater, and I don't know a single person that saw this movie. It feels like a fake movie, but it was real, and Hypnotic was my 4th least favorite movie of the year. Your number 3, sir.
Well, you've already mentioned it.
Oh.
It's Peter Pan and Wendy.
Nice.
I was going to say, please let this be the end to Peter Pan movies, but I don't think it's going to happen because I think Peter Pan is now public domain.
Probably, yeah. We're probably going to get a horror Peter Pan movie.
Only in the U.S., though, because
Okay.
in the U.K., it's under a special copyright to the Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children.
You know, we have the Steamboat Willie horror movie coming out soon.
That's right.
So be on the lookout for the Peter Pan and
Yeah,
Hook horror
so
movie.
I'm sure there's going to be another Peter Pan coming out, one that I'm not going to see. But, you know, you mentioned it. Nothing special about the kids' performances. Peter Pan was annoying. Wendy was dull. Jude Law horribly miscast as Captain Hook. They had Jim Gaffigan, who's one of my favorite stand-up comedians, as Mr. Smee. He wasn't funny.
Yeah.
And what really surprised me about this is this was directed by David Lowery,
He's a quality director.
who has done some really good films like The Green Knight, and I should remember some other ones. I can just imagine him going to the Disney brass and saying, here's what I want to do with this. And they just probably vetoed everything that he came up with.
Just remake the other one.
So just remake it.
Go watch the cartoon.
Go
and make
watch
that
the
again.
cartoon. And as you mentioned, it just kind of got placed on the shelf on Disney Plus while all of the ads that were on TV constantly were for Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, a blip in Mr. Lowry's career.
I hope so, yeah.
And the next one, I hope, is much better.
I think he would agree as well. My number 3 is a big shark movie. It's The Meg 2, The Trench from director Ben Wheatley. Stars Jason Statham, comes back. And it's a movie that the one note that came from the studio was make it bigger and bring in other monsters. It's a billionaire who has new tech, and he goes into the deepest trench in the world to find more Megs. And, of course, he brings along the Meg killer, Jason Statham. But, Statham's daughter stows away as well. That's trouble. And this mission isn't a sightseeing trip. They stumble across a bunch of bad guys 30,000 feet below the ocean surface that have a state-of-the-art facility down there. There's chaos as bad guys are attacking, big monster fish are attacking. Everyone's forced to get out of the submersible and walk across the bottom of this trench. Luckily, they're able to find their way into this facility, and Jason Statham knows exactly how to get in and where everything is once he's inside this facility he's never seen before in his life. That helps. And then the movie switches to going out to Fun Island. Everyone, let's go out to Fun Island for this movie, where there's dinosaurs, giant octopuses, bigger Megs, T-Rexes, and the bad guys, and all these monsters converge for the stupidest action this side of Sharknado. I'm a sucker for a good shark movie, but this film stunk. The sharks looked really, really bad. It tried to earn a couple of really somber moments in here that felt so misplaced. Like, you can't have this now. Not after all this.
What, of his daughter being in it?
No, well, yeah, there's a couple of moments in here they stop down, like,
okay,
this is really serious. Like, not in this movie, not with the giant octopus that just did that. The CGI is not great, and it's just a boring movie, and I didn't care about anyone in it. I didn't care about anything. It felt like a Sci-Fi Channel original movie starring Jason Statham, and as much as I enjoyed the first one is as much as I hated the second one, and The Meg, The Trench is my third worst movie of the year.
Okay.
What do you have at number 2, sir?
Number 2 is, I think, one that you and I reviewed. It's on Netflix. It's called Fair Play. And this was supposed to be a corporate thriller. It wasn't. To me, it was this piece of erotic trash with characters that were just so deplorable and unlikable. There was nobody to root for. I didn't care how it ended. I just wanted it to end. I mean, I've seen better erotic thrillers on Lifetime, and for some inexplicable reason, this one is ending up on some critics' best of 2023 list.
I enjoyed this movie more than you, but
Yeah,
I would
you
never
did.
put it anywhere near even the top half of my movies.
I don't know what movie they were watching, but I was expecting a Wall Street hedge fund cat and mouse game but it was not that at all. And this one stars, is it Aiden, the guy that was in one of the Star Wars movies?
Oh, Alden Ehrenreich.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's really, I just detested him in the movie.
Yeah, he's a detestable
I
person.
detested everybody in the movie. I had to take a shower after watching this.
Sure.
It was so horrible.
Fair Play comes in number 2. My number 2 is a big action movie from director Scott Waugh. It's Expendables 4, or Expendables. Massive waste of talent. It's a film that tries something interesting in the beginning of the movie and wants to make this a Jason Statham film. Statham making 2 spots on my list. But it's at its best when they make it a Statham film, but they undermine that constantly. And like Expendables 3, they decide, let's add a bunch of new teammates in here, like 50 Cent as Easy Day. The names are horrible. Megan Fox, who goes on to lead this team of Expendables, to save the world in full makeup and a crop top. Andy Garcia completely just wasted in here. It's cringy dialogue where everyone speaks in cheesy one-liners. It feels like Stallone just did action Mad Libs, and that's our script. Let's go at it. And it's just not fun. And you have 2 of the greatest cinematic martial artists, Tony Jaa and Iko Uwais, barely use them. And it chickened out with Something Brave that they did at the end. And these movies used to star, fun action icons from the 80s, and now they star 50 Cent and Megan Fox, and I hated this movie and everything they tried to do.
I haven't seen it.
It's the start, supposedly the start of another trilogy.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they're just going to get worse and worse. But that's my number 2 worst movie of the year, Expendables 4. Your number 1? What do we have?
I'm going back to Netflix. That seems to have a plethora of bad movies. My number 1 worst movie is Bird Box Barcelona.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, this was the sequel to the popular Bird Box with Sandra Bullock.
Good
where
movie.
People have to wear blindfolds, so if they take them off, and the monsters will attack them.
Yeah.
So I didn't see the original Bird Box, but this had to be the worst movie that I've ever reviewed on this show. I really disliked this movie. I wanted to put a blindfold on while watching this. It's just depressing and joyless, and it's another one of these plots involving a father and a daughter. I mean, if you want to see that post-apocalyptic type plot,
Go to Max?
go to Last of Us on HBO.
Yep.
100 times better. I mean, what's next? Bird Box, Beaver Dam?
You bet. They're coming.
Oh,
Put the blindfolds on,
I gave
kids.
it a half star. It's
It's not a good movie. First
Just
one's
the
good.
worst
First
movie.
one's interesting. This one, not. My last one, I don't have a whole lot to say because I just reviewed it last week. I couldn't help myself. Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child on Fire, Zack Snyder's newest film. I haven't hated a movie like this in so long.
Wow.
It's easily the worst film I've seen this year and among the worst of Zack Snyder's career, which is saying a lot for a man who made Sucker Punch. It's a showcase of his limitations and laziness as a filmmaker. And I gave my review last week about this film that stole most of its plot and characters from Star Wars and Magnificent Seven. And I think Zack Snyder needs to go back to shooting music videos or doing zombie movies because anything that requires actual thought or originality or character work is beyond him. And I feel like his greatest film in his career is his first film, which was a Dawn of the Dead remake of the Romero Dawn of the Dead, which says something because he also had to steal someone else's movie to make a good one. And it's bad. It's a CGI mess. His super slow-mo, just everything about it. If you want to know what I thought about it, go back watch last week's episode where
there was a lot of anticipation about
there was a lot of anticipation. And there's a part 2 coming. This is a part 1. But, these sycophantic films have bamboozled Warner Brothers into giving a director's cut of Justice League a few years ago. And he's already saying, I know everyone hates this movie, but the director's cut. That's really good.
Wait for that, yeah.
Yeah, no. This guy, this is a director who thought his big moment in a superhero movie was to have 2 Batman and Superman get excited that they have the same mom's name. This is not a good director. Sorry. I hate Zack Snyder. All right, let's...
wow.
Next week will be better. Let's take a look at what is coming soon, though, the weekend of January 19th. We have a couple of films. First one is ISS. When war breaks out down on Earth between Russia and the U.S., suddenly, peaceful relations between those aboard the International Space Station turn less congenial. The question is, does war below turn into war in the sky? Stars Ariana DeBose.
Yeah.
The reason I want to see this movie.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, this is her first turn kind of post-Oscar win. We also have Founders Day, a political slasher about a small town shaken by a series of killings in the days leading up to a heated mayoral election, and a masked killer must be unmasked by the citizens. This sounds not good.
Isn't there anything fun coming out?
It's January. We'll get there eventually.
Okay.
That's what I got for the weekend of January 19th, though. Before we leave, we want to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, The Palace here in Sun Prairie. Thank you for sponsoring this program. There are movies in the theater this week as we speak that we are both very excited to go see. We might be talking about some of those next week on the show as you are going to rejoin me to talk about American Fiction, the Mean Girls musical, and most importantly, our top 10 films of 2023. I'm still moving things around on my list.
I mean, the last couple of years, it's been fairly easy, but this past year, 2023, it's really tough.
It's going to be exciting for sure. I have a feeling you and I will not have the same list.
Probably not.
But tune in for that because as much as we hated these movies, we love the movies we're going to be talking about next week. So it's going to be a very exciting time. But until next week, when I'm rejoined by Steve, I'm Jameson.
And I'm Steve.
Stay warm.